Yeah, let's do some more solving. Maybe we can... Oh, this is the only one to do now. Right. Yeah, defensive strike.
I must take a different approach if I am to uncover.
Oh, it's the defensive strike, and he wouldn't let go.
Things are beginning to become clearer.
Elizabeth's story confirms Margot's claim. Yes, exactly. The Major's death was the result of a defensive strike. Yes. My goodness, this Poirot is slow. Finally, I've solved the case of the Major's murder. I must admit, I take no joy in declaring Mademoiselle Elizabeth as the killer, and I wish she had never been put in such a position at all. Resolve the blackmail and murder cases correctly? I'm not entirely sure how you can not. I've got something else to say to Elizabeth. Will do.
Oh, yes, Detective.
The Major's missing knife.
I don't know where it is.
If you have been honest with me until now, I ask that you continue.
I'm sorry, I really don't know. Archie dropped it out of the study window and he said he would deal with it. I couldn't bear to touch the thing.
I have the knife in my possession. I believe that from Mademoiselle's reaction, she does not know what became of it. She is unaware of the efforts that Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna went to mask what she has done. Monsieur Sterling was not lying when he said he would do anything for her. Merci, Mademoiselle. S'il te plaît, wait in my room.
Please, I was only protecting myself. I didn't want to hurt him. He just wouldn't let me go.
Oui, mademoiselle. I know. Mademoiselle tells quite the harrowing story.
I cannot imagine the Major acting in such a way. But Elizabeth could not make up such a story.
After learning what I have about the Major's character this weekend, I would not question the lengths he would go to in order to keep his secret hidden. I know that you share a close bond with Mademoiselle Elizabeth, but you cannot allow your personal feelings to taint your belief of what took place.
She has committed a terrible crime, but she will live with that for the rest of her life. She is not a cold-blooded killer.
If what she says of the Major's attack is true, she acted in self-defense. And in the law's eyes, a crime has not been committed. I will do everything I can to make sure her story is heard and a fair trial is conducted.
I believe the version of events that Mademoiselle Elizabeth has confessed to are true, the Major having fallen into a fit of rage at the prospect of his sordid secrets coming to light. He attacked the young Mademoiselle, drove her to do what she had to protect herself. She put herself in a dangerous position, but there is a small part of me that commends the duty she felt to find justice for her beloved, and the other workers that lost their lives at the Major's orders. If the telephone line is now working, I must call in my findings. With the remaining snow, it may still be some time before they arrive.
Mademoiselle, it is time I address the
Is it?
Are you sure? What will you say? What if they do not listen?
I can assure you, they will.
Elizabeth was right, though. She's just a servant. What if they...
Yes, yes, the turn of the 20th century. Let's blame a servant.
Mademoiselle, when Detective Poirot speaks, they will listen.
Because they've been listening so far all the way through.
Would you ask the guests to convene in the library?
Of course. And what of the staff?
I have told Monsieur Sterling to remain in the staff quarters with the others. When the authorities arrive, they shall be dealt with. You have been of great help to me throughout my investigation. And now that it is over, I have one final request.
You only need to ask.
While I am speaking with the guests in the library, would you watch over Mademoiselle Elizabeth in my room?
You don't think she will try and escape, do you?
In her position, I do not know what she might try. But I trust with you there, any potential ideas of such a thing will be squashed.
Chapter 9. Really? Another chapter? I thought that was going to be it. The denouement.
Detective, you have spent more time making us sit and wait for you than anything else.
Madame Van den Bosch, if you think I have spent my time focused on anything besides uncovering the Major's killer, you are sorely mistaken.
I'm sure you will be eager to share your findings with us then.
All in good time, Madame. Firstly, To understand the truth of what has occurred this weekend, one must know the timeline of events that not only preceded the Major's death, but succeeded.
We are all well aware of what happened before, Detective. You can save your breath.
You are only aware of what the guilty parties wanted you to believe. But now I shall apprise you to the truth.
But we've already worked this out.
The reason for us all being here, you know. The altercation between Monsieur Demire and the Major, you know. The body of Monsieur Hagen was found while we were all sat enjoying a most delicious meal. That you also know. But what was kept from us all was that his body lay on the study floor for far longer than was thought.
It was that servant. She found him.
S'il te plaît, monsieur. It was indeed young Inga that found the Major's body lying lifeless in the study.
So it was her.
Monsieur, I will not allow for any further interruptions. I return to the Major's body. If we are to believe the scene that we were presented with, the Major must have been killed during the first course of our meal, a meal that none of you left, even for a moment. Speaking in the evening, you all confirmed one another's alibis, and although there was doubt in the validity of some, I confirmed that they were indeed all true. What I could not understand was how a man came to be found dead, and every guest accounted for at the time of death. That is until I questioned the latter. Monsieur Beckers, I shall now allow you to speak. You saw the Major smoking a cigar in the snow. Is that true?
It is.
False. You saw what you were meant to see. Someone in the Major's coat standing outside, giving the illusion that the Major was still very much alive. Monsieur da Silva, on the afternoon of the Major's death, do you recall hearing a telephone ring?
Now that you mention it, I have not heard a single ring all weekend.
Correct. The telephone lines have been down for the duration of our stay, meaning the telephone call that was received and promptly directed to the Major's study was yet another act of trickery and deceit. But it did not end there. When I entered the study for the first time, it was obvious someone had already been there and falsified the scene to stage a burglary and clear away important evidence, including the murder weapon. What followed was an investigation that had already been hindered. But even those lengths were not enough to derail me for long.
I think we have all had enough of your self-praise, Detective. Perhaps you would like to tell us who killed him now?
Madame, as I'm sure you would expect, it is not as simple as that. What many of you do not know is the discussion that was had between the Major and Monsieur Beckers earlier that day.
What has that got to do with anything? I told you I didn't kill him.
That I know to be true. What you do not know is that it was not only his ears that heard your spoken words.
I hope you are not implying I had something to do with it.
No.
No, madame.
What?
There was another. Mademoiselle Elisabeth. You are all aware that the Major was hired by Monsieur de Silva to front the security during the workers' strikes. What very few of you know is that it was the Major's order that instigated the vicious attacks on those unarmed men and resulted in numerous deaths, including Mademoiselle Elisabeth's fiancé, Luc. Monsieur Beckers confronted the Major, declaring that he was to hand himself in. That is what Mademoiselle Elisabeth overheard. Now, knowing the truth, she waited until the Major was away from his study. After he stepped outside, following the confrontation with Monsieur Demire's fist, it looked to be the perfect opportunity, or so she thought. The Major returned and found her looking for the proof she required to hand him over to the authorities.
If the maid bumped him off, why hasn't she been arrested?
The events that followed in the study are not those of a cold-blooded murder, but one of a young girl that had no other option but to protect her own life.
Sounds to me, Detective, like you have taken a shine to this young girl and would rather protest her innocence than arrest her for murder, the crime she has committed.
Jeez, this is gonna make for a juicy story.
Mademoiselle, I ask you this. You have seen the Major's anger before, oui?
What if I have?
How do you think he would have reacted if someone was to find proof that he had committed a terrible act, and that if made public, would surely result in his incarceration? Exactement.
It is quite the story you have told, Detective, but all I have heard is that Elizabeth overheard a conversation blaming the Major for her fiancé's death, and she murdered him in revenge. A servant killing a man that is as revered as he was. She will face the noose.
I am not denying that a man has lost his life, but it is not the crime of murder that you all believe. While the Major did not deserve to die in such a way, it was his actions towards Mademoiselle Elizabeth that drove her to defend herself in any way she could. Mademoiselle Elizabeth will be punished, but we will let the law decide the severity of her punishment.
She has played you like a fiddle, Detective, acting the innocent victim. She will be arrested and hanged for her crime, like every other cold-blooded killer.
Here.
Give her what she deserves.
The girl has got to pay for what she's done.
Okay, so this is... Why are we doing this? Like, why don't we just conclude it that we figure out what happened? This is all... Yeah. They've all forgotten their own perceptions of the Major. It's almost like the writing isn't great. The terrible crimes he's committed and what he's done to them all in one way or another. Yeah, this has been good up to this point. It has. It's been enjoyable. And all of a sudden, the level of writing has really dropped off. I cannot allow for Mademoiselle Elizabeth's sentence to be negatively influenced by those in the house. I must help them to see how their past actions have led to these unfortunate circumstances and losses of life. Why? They're not the jury. What's the point of this? Perhaps you should remind them all of their participation, not only the workers' strike, but the resulting riots.
Those of you that are calling for the hanging of Mademoiselle Elizabeth, have you forgotten the roles you played? Your actions have been far from innocent.
Look, Detective, I see where you are going with this, but it's not going to work. So maybe the strikes were down to De Silva and Becker's. But don't try and drag me into their mistakes.
Mademoiselle Conrad, if you are so confident of your innocence, perhaps we should begin with you.
Convincing Mademoiselle Conrad to admit to her involvement will be no easy feat. She is strong-minded and has deflected questions in the past. Perhaps a more aggressive approach is the order. What was it? No, you would do almost anything for a headline, n'est-ce pas?
You don't need to imply it's only me that does. Ask any of my journalists, they'll say the same.
Even if in the process people are hurt? You knew the situation surrounding the strikes, and only sought to swell the anger in people and create further chaos. Mademoiselle, you so often have something to say. Now is not the time for silence.
You really are delusional. Maybe you should just keep your theories and claims to yourself.
You didn't know any field that sacrificed the lives of others for gain. Politics. You used others for your own agenda, not considering the repercussions.
You obviously have no idea what goes on in my world. I would say stick to honest police work, but it seems that it's not in your field either.
You have others to fall while you walk proudly across their backs.
Look, it's...
Mademoiselle, I do not have time for your excuses. Do you wish to state your direct involvement, or should I?
It's not... Okay, fine. Yes, the story was going nowhere. There was a deal on the table, and it was going to be done and dusted. Everything you said is true. I wanted the story. The scoop that would have blown the others out of the water. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. But I can see what I did wasn't right.
But you've just been making all these points that what you did was perfectly fine.
I didn't think you had this side in you. I can see now why Angeline asked for you personally. You're not like other cops. It's clear it's the law and doing the right thing through and through with you. If you say it was self-defense, I believe you.
We can't just forget what that girl has done. It's not Jackie's fault, or any of ours, that she decided to do what she did.
Monsieur Beckers, you are the last person I expected to defend Mademoiselle Conrad. We talked only last night, and correct me if I am wrong, but you have already declared the role you played. To me, at least.
Yes, we talked. It's just not fair of you to attack Jackie like that, putting words in her mouth until she succumbs to your plan.
I know enough of Monsieur Beckers to know that pushing him will not yield the results I need. Playing the role of an ally may be the best way to approach him. You did not consider how a strike could turn violent, endangering your men?
This is ridiculous. It was a peaceful strike. We only wanted what was deserved. Surely you do not think I sought to worsen the situation?
Monsieur Beckers, you have taken the words from my mouth.
Okay, that's going down the cynical approach, but that wasn't what the flipping words were. Be an ally. Oh, you didn't expect this to happen.
Jackie was documenting everything to do with the strikes. She wanted our story to be heard and wanted to know how I was handling the negotiations.
And they were handled by yourself?
Naturally. If I cannot handle simple negotiations, I am not fit to be in the position I am in.
I think Mademoiselle Conrad swayed, influenced, and manipulated your every decision. How is this? Oh, this is because you're blaming someone else.
No, it wasn't like that.
Oh, I hate this. This is getting annoying.
The tale that has been created. The facts I speak came directly from your mouth yesterday. Why is it you cannot admit she exploited your passion and desire for your men in front of the other guests?
Nothing is ever simple, Detective. I'm sure you understand that better than anyone.
You fought for those who do not have a voice. Surely you will not allow another one to be lost in the wind of social discrimination. There we go.
You're right, Detective. I have tried so hard to deny my part, but I know only too well that my decisions led to the
I
death.
don't know what's going on because normally it flashes up green when you're successful, and this hasn't been flashing up green. I don't know. Okay, I don't understand this system, and I think we're at the end of the game.
Excuse what I've done. I just want you all to know that I am not a hateful or malicious man. I only wanted to prove that I was the right man. I have lived in other shadows for so long. I thought I would be able to finally step into the light and be the one that everyone remembered.
We're going to have to do this with every single person, aren't we?
Monsieur Da Silva offered me a deal and I turned it down. I thought I was doing right by the workers. It was only myself I was thinking about.